who we are. And I think it started now. Hi everyone, this is episode 3 now, Men and Women, Common Ground. I've got my very, very good friend, Kate. We were just having a great discussion, and we're just going to try and bring up some of those points. You know, we don't want to be too personal, and it's nice to have a personal chat, but we're going to just generally talk about the things that we're passionate about, that we're both women. So I feel that I was listening to Kate talk about things that I had experienced, just very similar, and what we were talking about, women, how we're vulnerable. It's hard. I think when you're one gender, you don't understand the other gender very well, and your society sort of either separates you, or maybe you brought up, my dad was at work a lot. He's kind of a mystery to me, and I only had 3 brothers and 5 sisters. So and then I was a quiet, shy but pretty girl, so I was quite vulnerable, had low boundaries. And sort of was forgetting what we were talking about, but yeah, what are you thinking of the kind of things we want to talk about, just to not educate, but keep this conversation going, where the men are listening and they might learn something, or get some value out of how we are talking about ourselves as girls and women. And you've got Kate has a son and a daughter, so we were talking about their experiences growing up. What should we, there's just so much, isn't there?
I've got 2 teenagers, Maureen. I've got a son who's 19 and a daughter who's 17. And I was leaving work last night. I work with people in recovery from drugs and alcohol. And I was in the office saying goodbye to the other women, the nurses, and I said, the one thing I'm proud of, and I really am probably the most proud of, my defining moment in life, no man has ever supported me. I don't know no else.
Wow.
I've never been, I think maybe the father of my kids might have paid for holidays. He did give me a car, but I've completely solely supported and raised my 2 children on my own. I'll actually also help support other people along the way as well. And so I think that, a lot of the time now, a lot of the debate and a lot of the argument is around, roles, gender roles, and who provides and who's working and who's raising the kids. And my main thing I like to say, and I do say it, and I'm very honest when I'm working with males as well. And by the way, I become sort of asexual when I work. I feel very blessed and very lucky because I get to work with a lot of males. And in fact, last night when I arrived at work, 2 of the males who I've met a few times in the last, over the years, and they're like, Kate's here, great, we're cooking with you tonight. And they made this incredible cake, and they just wanted to describe in details all of the ingredients that they used in the cake. And they're like, we've got the frosting in the fridge. And it was just like incredible. But, I say to males, as women, we are sick of raising your children. And that doesn't just mean financially, that means emotionally, that means physically. I think that, I come from a family, I'm like you, big family, 6 girls, 1 boy. And I just think we now need to, we need to stop, accusing the opposite sex, saying, oh, you're a wife basher, domestic violence, you don't listen, you're not supportive. And, and really start, saying, no, actually, we need to all take responsibility. I'm certainly not going to wear something that is like, I'm disappointed. I'm really disappointed. I'm disappointed that men are now saying that it's women's fault, that we have blocked them out of the conversation, that we've now, taken over, we're dominant just because we've got an opinion. We have had to fight to get ourselves into a position where we can actually provide for their children. I'm one of the lucky ones that's been able to do that. And I feel really sad that, that has meant that, my children's father's in their life, but he's not functional, and he's not, he hasn't been, he hasn't been supportive of me as a woman doing what I've been doing. And that's not me saying you can't see your kids. I always allow him to see his kids.
Yeah, because men have those experiences where, they're in an unfortunate position as well. So then they might, in their emotional trauma, turmoil, think, oh, all women are like this, they just want our money, and I don't know if I've thought of myself that way, but I've definitely just struggled. Like, yes, I've been a stay-at-home wife, I guess. I used to think, oh, that's because I joined, his church, and that's how they want us to be, and we were lived like that. And I have to admit that I like to try out, how people live, and I enjoyed, for a time, just being the woman at home, having a nice house. Like, mum never got to stay at home. She worked a lot. There's a lot of us kids. But yeah, she was also very angry. And now I understand all these things that she's angry about. We had this messy house, lots of kids. And now I go, yeah, I don't want to spend all day cleaning the house. So she would go, take me as I am. And no one's, the kids won't help me. It's whoever's fault that there's no discipline. That, I've seen a lot of big families where all the kids do all the housework, and they just had a terrible relationship. They couldn't communicate. Dad was a lovely, quiet typical Australian man with a nice 50s upbringing, and they loved their sport, and they were chilled out and relaxed, and yeah, he just didn't know, I think, how to be what she wanted, a tough man, or get us all in line. But then it's the 80s and 90s, I think, similar to today, that we just had freedom. We just were like, screw you, we're going out. And yeah, and even though, like, my difference to you with men is I had a lot of male friends, but there's something I just don't know how to establish myself as just one of them. I don't know whether I not attract those types, but yeah, maybe I leave myself open, and they do think there's a chance, even though in my mind, I'm not communicating with them. But I'm always stressed out about, can I just be friends with men without worrying, that they've got the wrong idea, that you can't get too close not to any man. I've been meeting a lot of men, but only through this project, kind of like, I'm almost strictly business, like, let's just talk about this thing, conflict resolution, and so that I not too vulnerable. But maybe, you can't escape it. Like you were saying, there's a lot of damaged people in the world, and maybe you can't just live in a bubble and avoid bad things, negative people. And maybe we need to teach girls a bit more, or both together, about boundaries, about the real world, like the feminists out there. I don't know, I've been reading Camille Paglia, and you were saying you wanted to quote, I never remember.
Germaine, who I saw a couple of years ago, and she's been terribly maligned by other women, and she's been shut out and not been able to speak at universities, and I don't call myself a feminist. I don't even know what feminism was really. Like, I just relate to the fact that I'm a woman. And so when people say to me, oh, you're an angry feminist and you hate men, I'm like, no, I love men. Most of my best work is with men, and I love conversations with men. But she said a very interesting thing, and I don't remember a lot of people's quotes, but her quote I do remember. I saw her live a couple of years ago, and it was the most inspiring, incredible experience. I went on my own and I just sat there and I just absorbed it all. And she said, women love men more than they love us. And it is so true. And it's like we spend how much of our lives being obsessed about men. I mean, I'm watching it now with my daughter who's 17, and it's not that she's obsessed. She loves herself. She's incredibly beautiful. But I know my older sister says to me, the problem was with you, Kate, that all anybody ever saw you was as beautiful. So that everybody used to say, oh, you're so beautiful, you're so beautiful. And I see now that this is repeated with Belle, you're so beautiful. And so I had that conversation with her today. I said, Belle, you're incredibly beautiful, and that there shouldn't be anything wrong with that, but it is going to be, in a way, it can be an advantage, but it also can be a disadvantage because that's who people want you to be. And I said, not only are you beautiful, you're sensitive, you're kind, you're an empath, and people they want a piece of that. We all want to be comforted and looked after, and that's what their role traditionally is, to be comforters and nurturers. And then you get to this age and you hit menopause, and and they also say, I've heard a lot of people say that, when you divorce, if you're divorcing at a later stage, men repartner because they still want to be looked after, and women go, fuck it, piss off, want to lie in bed and read a book. And it's so true. Like, I mean, I know for me at my age, I'm looking for companionship. I want a friend. If I was going to do anything or ever go out with anyone again, it would have to be this equal sort of friendship and respect and all these things, and mutual enjoyment of things to do. So it's really interesting seeing Belle at the beginning of that journey, and my son who's not yet gone on that journey, and how she's relating to males. And I mean, she's got lots of males that are friends, and she's also got lots of girls that are friends. But I know, and getting back to what you were saying about that whole friendship thing, I think often it depends if they've got a partner as well, and how comfortable that partner feels with them having a friendship with another woman. Because there's lots of times when I've got lots of male friends, but I would never cross that boundary. I love their wives, or I don't, it's not like I'm having secret sort of conversations behind the scenes with just them. I want to make sure that that partner felt included in the relationship. But I also do believe if I'm going out with a male, he doesn't need to be having female friends where he's going off necessarily and going to the films, or it would have to be a very particular sort of male, and there'd have to be perfect trust within that relationship for that to be able to occur.
Because even I live in this fishing village, and there's obviously a lot of men that know how to fish and close friends, and I feel like, and it's even out of respect, for my husband, if that's the only thing, but it also protects me, I guess, and it lets them know I'm not going to just go off with them. That's also what this is about, is being open and learning. I want to learn to speak things that are uncomfortable. Like, I should be allowed to say, I'm not going to go alone with you, not because I don't trust you, but this is our society. My husband, even if I only just say, my husband wouldn't like it, and I guess I wouldn't either. But if you do go, if I get in a boat with a guy and we go fishing, just me and him, it just, unless we've grown up together or something like that, you were saying a special kind of person. There are men that I've known, you've gone through things with them where, and I had this beautiful friend that I went to high school with, and he was, he said he was in love with me, and I just wasn't. And I had, I was heartbroken over some arsehole, and this guy stood by me, this friend, and he said a lovely thing one day. I mean, it might seem, but it's for a teenage boy to say, okay, I'd rather be your friend than lose you. So, and I trusted that that's So not that he tried to be my boyfriend, but you know, there, and you were saying like be good for Germaine Greer, to sort of expand on that idea that like women love them more, because men can be not obsessed, but they can be so in love, you know, but maybe they're not allowed to show it, or it's too macho. But yeah.
Well, I think she was talking about it in relation to that they more love,
Oh,
they love things like
yeah,
they,
things. Yeah, I was going to
you
think
know,
about that.
they
Yeah.
love cars and they love sport.
Yeah.
It's not that they don't love women and women fit into that
Yeah.
picture, but you know, women like love deeply. And I think the whole thing is, if you've been through an experience where you know, there's been infidelity or really sort of a break in the trust, that's really hard. You know, the older you get, what I'm really far more in touch with is I don't want to hurt people. I don't want to put my I don't want to have myself, you know, hurt someone else. And if that means crossing a boundary, and if you're, it's like, I mean, I don't feel like I could tempt fate, but I know that, you know, the older you get as women, you know, men like younger women, they're attracted to younger women. It's always going to be that attainable. Women sort of stay fairly comfortable. And that's why, in a way, I'll be honest, I'm happy to be single. I'm happy that, you know, I've never, you know, spent, you know, 40 years with someone and been desperately unhappy and angry and neglectful. I mean, my mum died. My mum was younger than me when she died. She was 49. She had 7 kids. My dad was the famous one. He was the one that everyone loved. Oh, Kevin, you know, women loved him. You know, we still don't know till this day. He's no longer alive, but he used to drop in. He was an architect, and he would drop in at all the clients' houses on his way home, and women would bake him cakes and lemon tarts, and he was really charismatic. And we still wonder, was Dad actually sleeping with any of those women? And Mum was this, you know, like 7 kids. She was a beautiful cook, and you know, she was always constantly busy. But she was the one at the end of the day that got the raw deal. She died. She had, you know, poor physical health. She wasn't really, she stopped looking after herself. And that's what I think happens a lot of the time. As women, we put ourselves last, and so therefore, if we try and say, oh no, actually we matter and we need to put ourselves first, men get pissed off about that.
Yeah.
Like, do you understand that, Maureen?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, because I'm listening to men who feel they have the raw deal, and it's interesting because I'm a woman. I've had these same things that you're talking about. So it's like with both of our stories together, maybe men are, the things they bring up that they've got the raw deal, they have the dangerous jobs, they seem to be put last danger-wise or something. But maybe they're not aware of where women just seem to, like when I think of boys' mums, it's like, do you see this woman as just this invisible force that takes care of his needs, and he's grown up with this being that's not really a human. She's just looked after him, and then they look at us, you know, their partners, as the same thing in some ways, that we, you know, our houses are clean. Does it just, they must think, oh, it's always clean. No, there's someone there doing all this work, and then they come home or come in from their projects, and I wonder, a bit more than what I know, I think.
I mean, I've started, you know, my son cooks all the time now. He's not great at the cleaning, but if I say to him, Finn, can you do the dishes or can you clean up? He does do that. But I love it that he's cooking, and he'll ask me, oh, Mum, what do I do about this? I think we can search our whole lives and to attain this sort of sense of perfection. And I think that's the real problem. That's now what's become the problem, because men feel like they've been edged out because women are so capable. So I've been so capable. Well, I've had to be so capable because no one was looking after me, that I had from a young age at 17, but it actually happened when I was a baby. Because when I was a baby, my mum had another baby 10 months later and she got tuberculosis. So I know that my deep-seated trauma, my wounds are that I was abandoned and I was never looked after. So I know that I had to meet my own needs as a baby. So I believe I've been fiercely independent all my life. That hasn't meant that no man's been allowed to be in my life. It's just meant that I've chosen the wrong sort of men, because I think I've been trying to save my mother. And I'm not talking about that cliche about saving someone that's got, you know, all these issues or anything. I mean that my mum didn't live, and so therefore, you know, that was the sort of like loving someone that didn't feel themselves loved. And, you know, some people call it codependency. It's not even codependency, I don't believe, because I believe in the people I've loved. But unfortunately, at the end of the day, as time's gone on, it's been very vastly obvious to me that, like with my work, I can't come into someone's life and save them or heal them. They've got to do that work themselves. And because I've been doing that work since I was a baby, it can come across as if I'm sort of dominant or, you know, hard, but I'm not those things. I mean, I'm Cancerian, I'm a lover, I'm a family maker, a homemaker, you know, I'm very tactile. But, you know, I've learned now that I've got to let go of any expectations. And this is why I just love my work so much, because I get to be not only a fly on the wall of other people's trauma. Most people have stuff going on from when they were kids, their needs not being met, and spend their whole lives trying to repair that or fill that hole. And you get to a stage, hopefully, and that's where, you know, I love men that do work on themselves. I mean, you've done work, whatever it is, counselling, you know, I meditate, I swim. I've created an existence within which I can live and comfortably. And that's, you know, I just want that for everybody. And I think that's really hard, because I'm seeing that's where men are falling perhaps by the wayside, because they're not sort of staying, they're not staying in that same space. Maybe they haven't got time to work on it, or maybe it's too hard for them, or maybe it's so ingrained genetically that men don't do that sort of stuff. But there's a lot of sensitive, beautiful men out there, and I meet them all the time. And I even love the men that aren't sensitive and gentle and kind and all the rest, because I realise that's who they are as well. But I think there's certain things that we have to start really addressing, because I mean, I'm going to die heartbroken, because that's the one thing that I feel I feel like no man's ever really loved me, or maybe it's my mum never really loved me, and that's ridiculous. I know that's ridiculous, but I think, I'm just worried that there's a whole lot of broken hearts that are out there and not addressing a whole lot of stuff. I don't want my son to be one of those people, and I don't want my daughter to be either.
Yeah, wow. Yeah, so we've had a good 25 minutes, and I think we can think about, this is like the beginning of so many ideas and conversations I wanted to talk about. You know, like we were, you mentioned you just picked the wrong men. So it feels like we need to be more realistic about who's out there, that some people are predators, some people it's too hard for them, some people, and then maybe some people just need support and they can change as in respect people instead of you know, be a victim and excuse their terrible behavior, not become perfect, like I was saying. But we should, we'll leave it there, and we'll continue on. People will watch this and be inspired, because that was so great. So thanks Kate.
Maureen. Beautiful, darling. Love what you're doing.
Loving it. Okay.
Thanks, Maureen.
Do you want to stop